You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, JoAnn Crone. Oh my gosh, guys. Today we are talking with a former Navy SEAL sniper trainer who has taken the techniques that he has learned in the military and applied them to parenting. This is an episode that you do not want to miss, like all episodes. I think I say that at the beginning of every episode, but frankly, I stand by that statement. Because so many moms feel like they have to step in constantly, reminding, fixing, preventing mistakes. Because if they don't, things fall apart or their kids struggle. And it feels like good parenting, being supportive, being involved. But it also leads to exhaustion and kids who rely on you for absolutely everything. So the issue isn't that you're doing too little. It's that you're doing too much. Because when we remove struggle, we also remove the very thing that builds confidence. Kids don't gain self-trust from being helped. They gain it from doing hard things and recovering. So today we're breaking this down into 3 parts. Why doing everything for your kids actually lowers their confidence, how Navy SEAL mental training builds resilient, capable kids, and finally, how your words shape your child's inner voice and what to say instead. Because stay with me, because what our guest Brandon shares, from Navy SEAL sniper training to raising his own kids, completely flips what most of society thinks about helping our kids. Today, we are joined by Brandon Webb. He is a former U.S. Navy SEAL sniper. He's an entrepreneur and a best-selling author who has trained some of the most elite performers in the world. But what makes his work especially powerful is now he's taken high-performance mental training and applied it to parenting. As a father of 3, he focuses on raising resilient, independent kids who can handle real-world challenges. And his latest book, Puddle Jumpers, shares the mental tools and parenting strategies he used to do exactly that. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome, Brandon, to the podcast. It's so happy to have you here.
Thanks, JoAnn. Glad to be here.
I like mess up my words at the beginning of the podcast. I'm like, it's so happy. I'm so happy to have you here, Brandon. I am so happy to have you here. And your book, amazing, right in line with No Guilt Mom philosophy. And so I want to start us out with what first made you realize that the way most of us parent, protecting, stepping in, trying to make things easier, might actually be working against our kids?
I mean, honestly, it's why I wrote the book, is because as a parent, you're in this like daily struggle, right? And then as my kids got older and started meeting my friends and I had kids very young, like I was in my early 20s, and now my friends who are in their 40s were all having children, and they would meet my teenage kids and go, wow, like kids are great. Like they have good eye contact, just the basic stuff. And they started asking me for advice. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you don't do that, or you're maybe coddling them too much. I was like, why are you doing that? So it just became apparent that, I was made plenty of mistakes, but the core of my parenting philosophy with my ex was working. And people ask me all the time, where does Puddle Jumpers come from? And my original title for the book was a SEAL motto we have is the only easy day is yesterday. And that's a great, I think, parenting.
That's a
I was like,
that's a
yeah,
great
I was like,
motto.
yeah, it's a great motto, and I mentioned it in the book, but and that was my title. But when I was talking to Madeline, who's the CEO and publisher at Authors Equity, we had a discussion about this story that I told in the book about my youngest, Tyler, jumping this puddle. We had all come down from the mountains skiing. We're tired walking back to the car, and he sees this nasty puddle, and he's talking with his brother and sister, and I could see like he was gonna like go like smash this thing, and my
You
initial
always could see
reaction
it as a
was,
parent.
yeah, my initial reaction was like, no. I was
Yeah,
like
I know.
in my head, like, don't you dare. And then I had this like moment of clarity where I was like, why not? Like, is it gonna hurt anything? I'm just maybe do some extra laundry. And so I was like, dude, go for it. And he just went and jumped in this nasty, slushy mud puddle. And we all laughed. And I was like, wow, that a lot of times our parental instinct has to do with a lot of baggage we carry from our own childhood or
Absolutely.
things in our own life, and then we do things and or say things and do things to our kids that really don't make sense. Like, why would I rob him of this like joyful moment? And in that moment I said, I want to raise kids that are going to like take that leap, and not
Right.
afraid to kind of jump. And so that's where the title of the book comes from. The
You
puddle
want the
jumper. So
risk takers.
yeah.
You want like the mess makers. But it's really hard to think as a parent that you have to clean up after those mess makers and risk takers. And I think that's what makes a lot of us like stop and like pause with it. Something about your story, though, is one thing that you kind of taught your son as well. He had the natural consequence of being cold and wet from the puddle, and he got to weigh for himself. Was it worth it? Was it not worth
Yeah.
it? I mean, maybe it was totally worth it to him, and he wants to do that all the time and do it again.
There's a story I tell in the beginning of the book about this Mars biosphere experiment in the 90s, actually in your state, Arizona.
Yeah, Biosphere 2.
Yeah. And so
Know it well.
they were growing these trees, and the scientists couldn't figure out why the trees would grow to a certain height and just fall over. And then they realized that the trees' roots were not strengthened by the stress of wind. And that to me
Mm-hmm.
is a clear kind of tie into parenting. Like, we have to let our kids do the ordinary things that I think a lot of parents may be overprotective, and sometimes it's just more convenient to do it ourselves because we got somewhere to go, and like, oh, I'll just tie the shoes myself or do these things. But those little things over time creates little stressors, and they're confidence builders, and ultimately make a huge difference. Just like the trees lacking the stress of wind would fall over because their roots and the foundation wasn't strong. And that's something I think we have to be more intentional of as parents. It comes from a place of love usually, but in reality, you're not doing your kids any favors.
No, it does. Yeah, it does come from a place of love. And I'm just talking to all the no guilt moms out there who I know have done this before, and I know the thinking behind it. It's that not wanting kids to experience sadness has been somehow equated with modern parenting. And it just does not build long term resilience or confidence, like you said.
There's no joy without sadness. Like, you have to experience one to have the other, right? And that's,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about the book, and I hope it'll help a lot of parents out there. And like I said, I'm very honest with the mistakes that Gretchen, my ex, who was a co-parent, an amazing mom. We made plenty of mistakes, but I think the one thing we did really well was when we made a mistake. And sometimes we'd even have to apologize to the kids. And an apology is not a sign of weakness. It's like, hey, I screwed this up. I'm going to try and do better for you next time. Your kids will respect you for it. I mean, you have a teenager, so you understand.
Oh, yeah, I've apologized so many times, Brandon, like so many times. But as a result of that, like she apologizes to me too when
Yeah.
she knows she did stuff or reacted out of line. It's all about that real life experience, and just admitting your mistakes really helps your kids see that, okay, it's okay if I admit my mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes and you could do better. One thing you say in your book is that confidence doesn't come from praise, it comes from achievement through struggle. So, how could parents kind of let their kids struggle without feeling like they're failing them?
That's one of those things I think that parents, they tend to maybe be a little bit overprotective. And again, it comes from this place of, you want the best for your kids. And I think it does come from a place of love. But I think once you realize that your kids need to experience the struggle, I tell the story of Madison when her and her older brother were testing for their, I think it was their purple belt in Taekwondo. And I drove up to Paso Robles where my ex was living at the time for the test day. And you're in this, um, you know, this commercial building and the mats are out there and the students are all like sat on the floor and they each go through all their drills. And then, the parents are in the back and the students are sitting cross-legged and the instructor's in front and one by one, he critiques them and says, okay, this is what you did well, and this is what you need to improve on, and either you get the belt or you don't. Jackson got his belt, my oldest. And then when it came to his sister, Madison, and this is like terrifying as a parent because I'm in the back of the room. I'm like, oh, my little girl, she has to like get up in front of not only her peers in class, but all these parents in the back and like take this live critique. And then she didn't get the belt and she held it together. I was really impressed. I'm like, she just was super stoic until we left and she started bawling in the parking lot. And I told her mom, look, let me take her home. And I told her, I said, look, this is something that you're going to earn in a few weeks, maybe a month, but it's going to feel so good. You will have known that you actually earned it. And it's going to be a great feeling. And I remember her mom a few weeks later sending me a SMS with a photo of her smiling ear to ear holding that belt. And I could see it on her face. You do not want to rob your kids from that because that's life. Life, you don't always get it the first time. I'm in this business group, YPO, Young Presidents Organization. I see so many kind of upper class parents and they're just trying to like overprotect and do everything for these kids. And then the kids go off to college and they don't even know how to make a sandwich for themselves. And then
Mm-hmm.
they feel silly. It's like, you're just not preparing them for the real world. And in some
Right.
cases that can go really bad.
It's something that I've always stood behind, that failure is a really good thing because not only does it build that confidence, but it builds that confidence by showing you that it's not this final thing that happens to you. It's just like this little step on the journey. And also that it's not that bad long term. You actually learn much more when you fail than if you get everything right going through.
Yeah, no, 100%. Another thing I talk about in the book is there's a place as a parent also when your kid is like, I want to try this, right? I want to try this. And for my kids, I said, look, guys, I skied as a kid. It was a great family thing. Like, if you guys are up for it, let's do the ski lessons. And I remember the first year they were all in the basic class and either cold or wet and they're all complaining and they wanted to quit. They're like, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. We'd rather go to the rec center and swim in the pool. I was like, guys, like you signed up for this. I paid for the lessons. You are going to finish. I don't think that's a negative thing because sometimes our job as parents is to show them that kind of push. Like when you start something, it's worth finishing. And then after you finish, decide whether you want to continue or not. Because by the end of that week, they were like, this is amazing. This is so much fun. It changed dramatically. And that's sometimes you have to like hold fast as a parent to kind of and show them, look, you started it, finish it. And when you finish, then you can stop. Right. And sometimes it takes that to become an expert in something. It's a process.
And yeah, it really depends on the child and knowing the child too, because like I hear all this stuff about not letting kids quit commitments. And for my daughter, like it totally worked for her. I mean, she was in dance. She did dance for so long until she finally realized like she was the one who did not want to quit. She was the one who like knew in her bones, like this is something that she does not enjoy. It's not for her. And she stayed in it maybe a little longer than she needed to. My son's completely opposite. I tried so many things with him as a child because his emotions would get so amped up. It's just him as a kid. He has a bit of neurodiversity. I knew that making him go would be worse on me long term, worse on him long term. But what I can say is that when you honor the kid and when you also encourage them to keep trying things, now what I'm seeing is my son is going into stuff as a seventh grader and he's like, I don't want to be the guy who quits. I'm like, I don't want you to be the guy who quits either. And so he just started football and this kid is like showing up. He's like doing everything he can because he's found something now that he's like, okay, this is totally my choice to be in. I found all these things I don't like. I like this. Let's
That's
continue
great.
in this.
Yeah.
So knowing the kids is great too. You know what I wish existed when my kids were little? Great Wolf Lodge. An indoor water park inside your hotel where it's always 84 degrees, especially living in Phoenix where the sidewalks burn your toes. That would have been amazing. At Great Wolf Lodge, the whole family gets to splash around in a massive indoor water park with a wave pool, a lazy river, and water slides that you can all ride together. But here's what's really cool about it. They also have Magi Quest, which is a live action adventure game kids play throughout the entire lodge. It's like the magic never stops and your kids are always occupied. Between the Northern Lights Arcade, the great dining options, and the complimentary dance parties nightly, there's genuinely something for everyone all under one roof. No packing up and driving somewhere every hour. No, I'm bored. Just connection, fun, and honestly, a little magic for you too. With 22 lodges across the country, there's probably one close to you. Check it out at greatwolf.com and bring your pack together. Can I just tell you how excited I was when this showed up at my door? Because my son is a builder. Like, if it can be assembled, stacked, or engineered, he is on it. So when our KiwiCo summer adventure crate arrived, I could not wait to show him. He gets to choose so he can launch bottle rockets and actually experiment with payload to see how far he can get it to fly, or he can build his own safe and learn how the locking mechanism actually works. And honestly, I kind of want to do this one with him. Everything he needs is right there in the kit, so he could absolutely go build it himself. But I am genuinely curious how this works. Like, I want to know. And that's what I love about it. There's a tangible outcome, something you built, something you launched, something you figured out with your hands, not something you just watched on a screen. Like, every kid needs that. And honestly, every parent needs that too. KiwiCo's Summer Adventure Series gives your kids 6 hands-on project kits over 6 weeks designed to get them outside, off their screens, and into real learning. There's something for every age, 2 years old all the way to teens. Build the best summer ever with KiwiCo. Get $10 off on your Summer Adventure Series at kiwico.com/summer. Promo code NGM. That's $10 off your summer adventure at kiwico.com/summer, promo code NGM. Okay, so summer is basically knocking on the door, and all I want to do is plan a fun family trip without that little voice in the back of my head going, can we actually afford this? You know that voice. We all know that voice. Monarch is the personal finance app that tracks everything: accounts, investments, savings goals, and spending. Get your first year of Monarch Core for half off, just $50 with promo code NOGUILT. So my husband and I started using it, and honestly, that moment of clarity was when it surfaced every single one of our recurring expenses, subscriptions I'd completely forgotten about, things I had to hunt down the email addresses for just to cancel. It even helped us start thinking seriously about when my husband can retire. And my favorite feature, the AI weekly recap. It flags spending spikes, net worth shifts, and upcoming expenses so nothing sneaks up on you. It's like having a financial advisor in your pocket, but without the awkward small talk. Use code NOGUILT at monarch.com to get your first year of Monarch Core half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code NOGUILT. I want to hear all of your performance techniques because, like, When you say like Navy SEAL sniper training, I'm like, this is hardcore, Brandon. So, like, what's like one technique that you use from that training in your parenting?
The first one was visualization, like mental rehearsal. Back to Jackson, I remember he was in first grade and super nervous to give this presentation in front of class, which I think public speaking ranks as one of the top 3 fears in adults, so I get it. I said, okay, let's work on your visualization and let's practice this. So, imagine your classroom, close your eyes, and imagine yourself, all your classmates, and imagine the nervousness of it, and you walking up to class and just like giving this talk. Okay, now, and he's like in the moment, and I'm like, okay, do that over and over, 10 times, and then do it another 10 times before you go to bed. And then he went the next day, and he's like, wow, like, Dad, that really helped. Like, I felt like I practiced so much that the nervousness went away when I got up there. And that's like a short, version of how this visualization helps. And if anyone watched the Winter Olympics recently, like most of those skiers, you can see them like closing their eyes before their run, and they're doing their whole practice routine in their head, because the visualization stuff I think first showed up in the Olympic arena, because one of the pioneers of mental management taught me when I was a part of this group of Navy SEALs that were modernizing the SEAL sniper program in 2002. When I'd come back from my deployment to Afghanistan, I got asked to come down and be a part of this pilot program. And the guy, Bob, who recruited me, says, hey, we're going to have access to all these like amazing coaches, and you'll be able to sit in these lectures. And so one of them was by this guy, Lanny Basham, who created this mental management program for himself as an Olympian. The quick story about that is he went to Munich, I think in 72, and won the silver, and he should have won gold. He was a world champion on the rifle. He was a competitive shooter. And he's like, I was on the bus, and these Russian guys were like chirping in my ear about how much pressure was on the shoulders and this and that. And then he's like, then I started thinking about the pressure, and then I went to this finals and completely collapsed and still won silver. But he was like, what's the worst thing about the silver is everyone asks who won gold. He's like, that's always the next question that comes up. So now he's like, this is the 70s. He's back in the US, and he's going to all these psychologists saying, happened to me. Like, how come I just mentally collapsed? And he said at the time, there was really no such thing as positive psychology. So they were just trying to make him better with being like a silver medalist. And he's like, no, I want to be a champion. And so he had access to the entire Olympic team. So he went to all the gold medalists that he could find and who would talk to him, and found out they all shared certain traits. Visualization was one. They knew how to push negative self-talk out of their head. We
Ooh,
all deal with negative self-talk.
right. We like to call it in the No Guilt Mom world our Bob. Our Bob is telling us
Yeah.
things.
So
That's our
when
negative
Bob
self-talk.
starts, when Bob starts talk, they all knew how to like push that out with mantras. They all had this attitude that no matter what happened, if whatever their sport was, if they were playing tennis and the racket broke, they would still beat you. That was the mentality of a champion. And we've all seen like people performing at a very high level, then something happens. Maybe they realize they don't have their lucky bracelet on, or maybe there's like an equipment malfunction and they completely collapse. And one of the other things he said that's important in parenting is he said, look, there's a time and a place to use a negative feedback loop. That's like a boot
Uh-huh.
camp environment, or in my case, the Navy SEAL training, because they want to throw everything at you they can and see that you have it inside to figure it
What does
out.
that
And
mean? Like a negative feedback loop in terms of the boot camp and training?
they would say very negative things like, you're terrible at this. Why are you here? You suck. These kind of
Mm,
things. And you're just like, wow, that's like, it's not good to hear that kind of thing, right?
no.
And I remember he said, look, you guys, when you're training snipers, these guys are already Navy SEALs. They've already been through all this stuff. There's no reason to point out the mistakes, because essentially, if you're teaching anybody as a beginner, especially a kid, if you verbalize all the mistakes, all you're doing is you're negatively programming them for failure. Because if I tell a kid, if I'm a coach whether it's soccer or Little League, and I say, hey, Johnny, whatever you do, don't strike out when he's walking up to bat. Now I've just put that negative image in his mind. And
Right.
it
All he
works
could think about strike out. He's like,
yeah.
strike out, strike out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's like, oh, strike out, strike out. And he's just like, spiraling inside, as opposed to like, hey, hit it out of the park. That's like paints a very different picture mentally. And so what we were doing as instructors in the old ways, we would just point out all the mistakes. Hey, you're flinching on the rifle. Because that's a common, for a beginner shooting a high powered rifle, they tend to develop a flinch. They're anticipating the
Right.
recoil. So they're like flinching right before the trigger pulls and it throws the shot off. So we would say that, and we would just say like all these mean things and point out all the mistakes. And what we're really doing is programming them and spreading like a virus bad
Yeah.
habits. Because maybe a guy next to the student, he's not flinching, but now he heard me tell this guy not to flinch, and now everybody's worried about flinching. And it's like
So I have
in
a
their
question
heads.
about that, Brandon, because like
Yeah.
I hear that and I'm like, yes, okay, yes, great. How do you though take away that habit of flinching if it's a really specific thing? Like, what do you do then as an instructor? Or like thinking about it in parenting, like say your kid has kind of a bad habit. What do you do?
No, it's a great question. What we started to do was, because we got coached to do this, was only focus on the corrective verbal cues. So
Mm.
I would say, slow down, focus on your shooting fundamentals, take a deep breath. At the bottom of the exhale, make a nice, smooth trigger pull
Hmm.
and reinforce that. And so you're
Okay.
pushing out the bad habit in a very positive way. And so
Because
that
it's
was like,
focused on what they should do versus what they shouldn't do. So that's not on repeat in their mind what they shouldn't do.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, especially in team sports, you got to be really careful as a coach to control the chatter after a game or a loss, because everyone's like, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. And so it's like this negative feedback loop. And maybe somebody that's not having a bad day overheard this, and now he's thinking, am I doing that? So it can be very
Hmm.
contagious, like a virus. In the long term in parenting, this adds up cumulatively over time. Like how we talk to our kids, eventually, like what we say becomes their inner voice. Like they hear us later on. And so, how do you want to be remembered? As a positive parent, like a positive coaching parent, or somebody that's always pointing out their mistakes and failures and bad habits? No, I hope you want to be have that positive voice in their head.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So, whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You know that thing where you're doing all the right things, eating your veggies, getting your kids to actually eat theirs, staying hydrated, and you still feel kind of off? Yeah, me too. Turns out most of us have small nutrient gaps we don't even know about. And with our packed schedules, it's honestly really hard to cover all the bases through food alone. That's what led me to First Day. And honestly, it has become one of my favorite parts of the morning. I actually look forward to taking my vitamins, which, if you know me and how many supplements I take, it's saying a lot. They are so good and I never forget them. No nagging myself, no skipping, just 2 gummies and done. What I love most is that they actually make different formulas for toddlers, kids, teens, and adults. So it's tailored to your stage of life. It's a blend of 21 organic superfoods and 9 key vitamins with no added sugars, no artificial dyes, nothing sketchy. They test for 200 plus toxins and have the Clean Label Purity Award, so you feel really good about what you're giving your family. Over 1 million families have already started using First Day, and they back it with a 45-day money-back guarantee, so there's zero risk. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting an insane deal. Use code NGM to get up to 57% off at firstday.com. That's up to 57% off and a free gift with code NGM at firstday.com. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Put it in context. We were failing 30% of the students in the sniper course. When we put all these kind of the principles of mental management, which are mental rehearsal, visualization, positive, teaching them how to identify negative self-talk and push it out with positive self-talk. When we started doing positive verbal cues over negative, things like this. Also self-limits, like a lot of this is, I see this a lot in parents as well. They say things, especially in a multiple sibling house. She's a klutz, or he's just not good with numbers. He's good with this, but he's not.
The comparison to different kids. I have seen
and
that
you're like,
too.
You're boxing them in, and you're putting these like glass ceilings on them. We changed all these things, and the first course we ran, we graduated everybody. Nobody failed.
Wow,
and
that's amazing results.
Yeah, and it just stayed that way. And this was when I eventually got promoted to be the head instructor when I was, I think, 28 years old. When I saw this, I was like, oh my God, like this stuff really works. Then I said to my instructors, when the students ask you what a good shooting score is, because we have these very hard shooting tests out to 1,000 yards in variable wind conditions, and they can only miss 4 shots they have to make, which is an 80% is the minimum to pass. I would say when they ask, because they all do, like, what's a good score, coach? I said, tell them, perfect. We want 100%. And then we started for the first time having students shoot a perfect score, which had never really happened before. Like 90s, maybe like a 95 now and then, but never a perfect. And all of a sudden we had like a third of the class shooting perfect scores. And I was like, oh my God, that really works. It was a huge eye opener to me, and something that, I carried with me when I left the Navy in 2006. I had kind of burned out. I talk about this in Puddle Jumpers, and I wanted to be around my kids more because I saw like how the operational tempo was increasing. And I saw the SEALs that had stayed 20, 30 years. They had no family relationships. It was a disaster.
I would imagine not, because I mean, all of that time away from your family and the intensity of the job, it really plays you pay a toll for that.
Yeah. And I remember Jackson was 4.5, and he's like, what, you're not coming to this, Dad? And I'm like, that's it. I'm out. Like I just was like, full stop. I finished my tour and said, guys, I'm out. And they didn't believe me because I just got promoted twice. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, you just want a better billet, or, because we compete for orders. Like, oh, I want to go here. Well, somebody else is going there. But they're like, we'll send you anywhere you want. I'm like, no, guys, I'm choosing my family over the Navy.
Yeah.
It was the best decision I ever made.
It's a big decision, yeah. And then taking everything that you've learned in the Navy and applying it to parenting too.
Yeah. I mean, I did it on myself at first because I struggled like a lot of SEALs do. You're on top of the world one day. And it's similar to like what Michael Phelps talks about as one of the most decorated Olympians, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love following Michael Phelps and his visualization techniques and all of those things, because it really helps. And it helps kids tackle things that they wouldn't necessarily tackle and recover from failures much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can also rehearse for contingencies. It seems like such a trivial thing. When you teach your kids this early, you give them like a huge edge in life.
How did you teach them it? Because I have tried to teach my kids visualization, and it's one of those things where they're like, I just can't visualize. I just can't do it. How did you overcome those things when teaching kids how to visualize?
I don't know if it was just the dynamic, because, their mom and I divorced a few years after I left the Navy. I never had a problem with them like not taking my coaching or advice. Now it's a little different now that I have a 24-year-old who thinks he knows everything. It's one of those things you have to just find a way. one of the things that I took away from the sniper course also was that we put in place an instructor mentor program, because what I was seeing that some of the instructors just weren't putting in enough effort to some of the students that really needed extra help. And so we developed this instructor student mentorship program, because so one instructor would have 4 students, so two pairs each. And that creates an incentive, because if I'm an instructor, essentially a mentor, right? If I'm a mentor, I don't want my students doing bad, like on the test. I will spend extra time with them. To get back to your original question, this mentor relationship we set up was amazing. The instructor would stay after hours, and that's why we started passing everybody, like all things combined. But with our kids, sometimes it's good to find a mentor. Like as they were getting into the teenage years, or I would have a conversation with my friend, hey, can you talk to my son about this, about your experience?
Yeah.
And sometimes like that's like a dad or parent trick, right? Because
I use that actually, teachers and instructors and coaches. So I will go up and I will tell the coach, hey, they're struggling with this, but they probably are scared to tell you. And then the coach can make the approach much easier than I can as the parent. I did that as a teacher too. I was a teacher, and I could get through to kids easier than the parents could, just because of the
yeah, no,
relationship.
that's a prime example, right? So, and that's something I think parents need to recognize. It's a tool for them. And my kids now have mentors. Like I've gone out and paired them with a mentor, because I know that sometimes maybe they're embarrassed to ask the question of mom and dad. So let's give them some, or maybe they just don't want to, they're worried that we're going to judge them in a certain
Right.
way. So having an adult, positive adult as a sounding board is a really good thing. At least it has been for us.
It's excellent. It's excellent. So, final question for you. For a parent who's like in a stressful moment when their kid just messed up or is struggling, what are some specific things you recommend them doing?
I mean, one of the things as a military guy and a pilot, I use checklists. Like checklists save lives, and the checklists also take the emotion out of it.
They do. Have you read the book, The Checklist Manifesto?
No, I'll check it
Oh,
out.
it's so good. It's what you're talking about. Yeah, they talk about airline pilots, and yes.
So when I first wrote the draft, I'm with an amazing publisher. Like the whole team, mostly women. They all came from Penguin Random House, and they're all parents, so they're like really active in the process with me. And I had made a discipline checklist because I went to business school, and I thought I was a good negotiator, and I went to this negotiation class, and they have this whole negotiation map where who are all the parties involved? What are their motivations? Like in a real estate transaction, if you're buying a house, okay, you have yourself, maybe your spouse. Each of you have different motivations. Maybe you want a kitchen and bathroom better or more important to you. Your husband wants this. Then there's like the 2 sellers, and then both agents on either side, and everybody has different motivations. And so the power of that business school told me is like, okay, unravel that and map it all out and get to, what everyone is kind of motivated for, until you have a bit deeper understanding of the situation, and you can be a better negotiator. I was like, why don't we do this for parenting? And I remember, because there was a few stories I tell in the book about Gretchen and I over punishing, where we actually had to say we're sorry. And a lot of times it was because we had this emotional reaction, again, that comes from a place of love, maybe fear, because we're like, something could have bad happened
Fear
to
is
them.
a big emotional motivator for parents. Yeah.
And so I put a checklist in place. And the big thing is like, it's like checking your own emotions. Like, are you wound up? Because maybe you're not in a good place to kind of like deal with this situation. Like, check yourself. I created this checklist as a quick resource guide. So you can be like, okay, if there's a problem that comes up, it reminds the parent, okay, check your own emotions and really get to kind of the why of the behavior. Because sometimes when we realize, we're like shocked because the kids hold it in, they don't tell us. So hopefully that will help.
So check your emotions first if your kid is struggling, and do not act on those emotions if you find that they are there, and use your checklist.
And then get to the why. Yeah, and get to the why of the behavior.
Always get to the why. Well, thank you so much, Brandon, for coming on. Like, I love these techniques, and applying them to kids, and talking with you about them has been just completely delightful.
Same. Yeah, I can tell you're a great mom, so it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thanks. And everybody listening out there, remember the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and I'll talk with you later. If you'd like to support the show further, you can share episodes with your loved ones, leave a positive review, or follow us on social media at No Guilt Mom. You could also show your love by visiting our amazing podcast sponsors. We have a link in the show notes.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.